Survive and advance. Syracuse men's lacrosse beats Towson 20-15 in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I'm Adam Gotkin. That's Ian Nicholas. And this was pretty scary at halftime. The Orange trailed by 1, but then a 9-0 run to kick off the third quarter. The Orange were just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I thought it was the most impressive quarter of lacrosse I've seen from this team this year. And I understand that Towson is not the level of competition of the ACC gauntlet that the Orange had to go through, and also Johns Hopkins, a really great out-of-conference game as well. But 9 scores and 9 different goal scorers, that's the one thing, Adam, that separates Syracuse, positively and negatively, from all the other top contenders in the NCAA tournament field this year. They don't have that elite dodger, but they probably move the ball better than anybody else. And that's Joey Spallina, who we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's also guys like Finn Thompson, who's been playing a lot better as of late. And as Gary Gate mentioned, even though his individual performance wasn't fantastic, Michael Leo moving from midfield to attack, just like he did late in that Virginia game to close out the regular season. He helped space out the offense because I think there's just more chemistry and flexibility when you have a guy like Michael Leo in there.
I mean, it's absurd just the amount of talent on this Syracuse offense.
Yeah.
Every starter but Jackson Birtwistle scored in that run, with the other goal coming from John Mullen. He was incredible today. Those faceoffs were a massive part in that run. It's that make it, take it lacrosse that makes this team different from last year. When they win faceoffs and they can just play make it, take it, control games, and start to move the ball and just play quick in their style of play, it feels like this team can just be unstoppable at times.
Yeah, I mean, Towson, you know, everybody was talking about headed into this game, the top scoring defense in the country with a PLL level talent leading the way in Colby Bars, and they had no answer.
20 goals. It's absurd. I mean, you rarely see teams score 20 goals, but to do it against the #1 scoring defense in the country, just so impressive.
Right, it was like one of Towson's worst defensive performances like since the mid-90s, and that was when Syracuse played them, and that's when Syracuse was really good. So the Orange are trying to get back to that level consistently, and being unselfish and going to your bag not only of the grad students that you brought in, but the sophomores who made up the #1 recruiting class in the country a year ago. All of them got mixed into that 9-0 run.
Well, the Orange had to go on that 9-0 run to pull away because they were down at halftime. And a big reason for that were, once again, surprisingly, struggles from Will Mark. He got pulled against Duke, and a lot of people were maybe calling for him to get pulled again because no saves in the first quarter. But he bounced back in a really impressive way.
He did, and I think he was really confident post-game, saying, I was happy that I could strut my stuff on a stage as big as this, because you kind of forget this was Will Mark's first NCAA tournament game. No offense to the Long Island University Sharks, but 3 years there. That's not an NCAA tournament team. Syracuse wasn't a tournament team last year, even though Will Mark did everything in his power to keep them in games last season. And this year, finally, the Orange have a roster that doesn't need their goalie to be lights out every single game to give them a chance to win. But he was lights out in the final 3 quarters, maybe 2.5 quarters, and that's all that they need from Will Mark, right? They don't need him to be Liam Entenmann every single night, right? They need him to be a goalie that can save 1 or 2 that probably shouldn't be saved every single game, which he did late in this game. Towson, it was a 5 or 6 goal game with most of the fourth quarter left, and he made some great stops. So am I more concerned now than I was about Will Mark heading into the Duke game in the ACC tournament? 100%, right? He's had 2 games that are not All-America level standard. But if you look at the final 3 quarters of this game, I think you see the same Will Mark that you saw throughout the rest of the regular season. So I'm happy that the coaching staff trusted him enough not to pull him for Jimmy McCool a second time in 2 weeks. If you do that, I almost felt like you would have had to keep McCool in for the rest of the way.
Yeah, I don't really know what I would have done if I was the coach. I mean, I'm not the coach for a reason, but I felt like at that point, he gets pulled last game, no saves again. I thought Gate was going to do it, but he decided not to, and it ended up paying off because when a goalie like Will Mark can get hot in the tournament, and he started to get hot towards the end of the game, then, this Syracuse defense can be really hard to get past. Well, a player on the Syracuse offense who showed up once again, Joey Spallina, 4 goals for the 2nd straight game. I think he's just figuring it out at this point. He had some struggles at times throughout this season, especially towards the end when he started playing some ACC competition, but he is starting to really figure it out when it comes to scoring goals.
You could ask 10 different people about their opinion on Joey Spallina, and they're going to give you 10 different answers, right? So you talk about his goal-scoring ability. They zoned him up for a lot of this game, which I thought was interesting because, again, mentioned Colby Bars earlier, but they didn't glue him on Spallina. Like, Ajax Zapatello was glued onto him in the Maryland game, and A.J. Pilot was glued onto him in the Army game, and John Schroeder was glued onto him in the UVA game. That's not how they defended him, which was odd because most of those close defensemen had a lot of success against Joey. But then in this game, he just had all day long to do what he does best, feed, and that's exactly what he did. So sure, he scored a couple wraparound goals where there was nobody defending him below the cage, and he's a good athlete, and he scored. But he was great as a feeder tonight because he understands what to take when the defense gives it to him. So, yeah, I mean, a mid-major didn't have the talent to lock him down, and he took advantage.
I thought he did a good job, though, of being aggressive with some of those wraparounds. At times, it really frustrates me when he's just standing to get X. I was an ex-attackman when I used to play, and when he's just standing there waiting to pass it, I'm just like, do something. But he was pretty aggressive at times today in a place where I feel like we haven't seen before this year, where he was going for the wraparound and he was going to score. And I think it was an aggression that we haven't always seen from him. But I think when we do, and he's able to do it in the right way where he's not forcing shots, that's when Joey Spallina is at his best.
I think the goal scoring is important with Joey Spallina. I don't think he needs to score a hat trick every single game for them to keep advancing in the NCAA tournament. The most important part is he didn't turn the ball over, right? When defenses pressured Joey Spallina in the past, there was just one goal. Finn Thompson finished on a doorstep. Spallina got doubled, right? And you're like, uh-oh, is he going to turn it over? Is it going to be a 2, 3, 4 turnover game for Joey Spallina? It wasn't that today. So if he can make the right decision, I understand, right? Everybody wants Joey Spallina to be the next coming of, number one recruit, Powell brother, all the lofty expectations. But for this tournament run, he needs to do the smart things, which is what he did tonight, and he ended up having the big numbers too.
Yeah, he did. 4 goals and 4 assists, a massive game today for Joey Spallina. Well, the Orange up next are going to have a trip down to Towson. Kind of funny. You beat Towson to play at Towson.
Adam Gotkin country.
Right by my home. Well, Syracuse will play Denver at noon on Sunday. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CitrusTV Sports for all the updates. For Ian Nicholas, I'm Adam Gotkin. We'll see you soon.